Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm just Oh, there we are. Okay. I think I am not super tech savvy, so this is
Totally
okay.
fine.
Very good. All right. Hi, nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too.
Thank you for meeting with me on so quickly. That's wonderful. So we are just wrapping up our second year of homeschool.
Awesome.
I have 8-year-old twins. My son is ASD, Asperger's. My daughter undiagnosed but highly suspect ADHD. There. We have had a very difficult year this year. I thought the first year was difficult. No, this by far definitely took the cake. And there were a lot of different variables there, from our homeschool community that we are involved with, and a lot of the other moms who are seasoned homeschoolers. I've been told that this age is a bit challenging when it's coming to wanting to do the work. How many more questions? How many words do I have to spell? How many pages do I have to read? How long are we going to be here? Constant. So every time I've sat down to do a lesson, it has been a fight. We either end up screaming or we end up in tears, or a combination of both. The amount of times that it's been like, okay, you're going back to school. So recognizing that there definitely needs to be some change in my approach for September. And I've had my eye on Schoolio for the last little while. It keeps showing up in my Instagram. I have not yet done the 1-week free trial, but I keep going through and looking at it. And I am very interested in the print and digital combo. Their attention spans are, it depends on the day. So sometimes they can keep going a little bit longer. Other times it needs to be short. So I'm liking the idea of having the opportunity to use both, where if I'm having a difficult day, they can do the online part. And then even some of it, probably even the print, can be done individually, provided they're able to read and comprehend what they're reading and what's being asked of them. And I know that you guys advertise for neurodivergent kids and that approach. So I'm just, I would love a little bit more info around that. And I guess some assistance or some help or guidance in how to set up our day or a schedule to be as successful as possible for next year. Because I think last year I kind of winged it a bit. We had a big trip that we took at the beginning of October. We didn't really start anything until after we returned home from our trip. And then it just it took a while for us to get back into the swing of things. And then Christmas break comes and all of the things that lead up to it. So we are still working through our reading and spelling curriculum. We are so close to being finished. So I'm using All About Reading and All About Spelling right now. And I use CTC Math for their math curriculum, which they did well with. I mean, math is a tricky subject anyways. I'm not fantastic at it. It can be very frustrating. So there's lots of conversation around that. But yes, looking for some guidance on how this might work for us.
Yeah, for sure. So you're doing AAR and AAS. We used that as well with my daughter who's dyslexic.
Okay.
We used AAR because it's the Orton-Gillingham method of instruction, which is what the diagnostician recommended for dyslexia. So that's a really good program. It is very heavy. It takes a long time to get through. They've
managed really well. Their reading, I think so we just finished level 2, or we're wrapping up level 2. They're doing really well. And we're wrapping up level 2 reading as well. So
that's great. Are you doing anything for science and social studies yet?
No, not really, which is, I know now that we're heading into grade 3, I would like to be approaching some of those topics. My focus has just been language arts and math. We've touched on
when they're young.
We've touched on a little bit, of the provinces. and that sort of thing, but nothing in great detail.
Mhm. Yeah, that's great. So what do you think, like, what is it that they struggle with the most that gets to that, like, tears and sort of crying or fighting point? Is it like the length of time it takes? Is it the content itself?
Sometimes, yes. So my son's frustration threshold is not very good. So the moment he spells a word wrong or forgets some of the spelling rules, because we've learned, or majority of the silent E rules and how to write, and it's remembering all of the rules put together and building the words. So it's tricky. So he does tend to spiral when he's not getting it, or his sister does well in spelling, and so she's excited, of course, and so there's the I suck. I'm not good at this. I'm never going to be good at it. Right. I'm like, we're learning and it's okay. The expectation is you're not going to get it perfect every time. We haven't spelled these words before. And so it can be for him very challenging.
Yeah, that's very common for that frustration tolerance to be a sticking point, especially with ASD.
Yeah. And I would say that even with my daughter, because she is fairly good at her spelling and she loves to write, that comes naturally to her. So when she does mess up, then that can throw her a curveball. And it's just, again, remembering that it's okay. You don't have to be perfect. She struggles a lot with math. Math comes slightly easier to him. Mm-hmm. So there's a balance there between the two of them for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, like, our content is designed to work well for neurodivergent students. Okay. The ways we did that was, one is that our lessons are all very short. So each lesson, and whether you're reading the lesson aloud to them from the book or whether they're watching it online, it's the same content, just you're the reader versus an animated reader. Okay. But they're all like 2 to 7 minutes long is the
amazing
lesson. And they only get longer in the older grades. Okay. So at that, like, grade 2, 3, 4 level, you'd be looking at like 2 to 5 minute lessons, which is designed to sort of like maximize the time we have their attention, and to not like ramble on, because that can get that frustration level up really high. If they understand, they're better off to watch it over again if they didn't understand it, and the option to move on if they did fully understand it, rather than create the video that much longer, right? So bite-sized lessons, and then the way we unitized all of the courses. So same thing, it doesn't matter if your books are online, you can mix and match the grade levels. So if you found that your daughter was struggling with a concept in 3rd grade math, you could add some grade 2 lessons to her schedule. Okay. Same like concept to sort of reinforce that one concept, or even if they're working at completely lower grade level, you can do that too. And they don't really notice so much, because it's just their lesson of the day. Sort of what grade level it is, or if they're working at different grade levels, but they each have their own sort of schedule and they're separate. Their online accounts.
Okay. And is there some kind of diagnostic tool that they would take prior to starting their grade that would give you or give the AI or whoever some level of where they're at and where to start?
Yeah. So there's it's just for math, but there's an assessment on the portal where you have them go through, and that's basically it's basically checking every skill from the previous grade. So then it'll tell you based on their score, we'll say, they should start in grade 2, they should start in grade 3. And that'll help you gauge where you start. But if they're not struggling in math with the CTC, then they're probably going to be on grade level.
Yeah, so it's obvious. It's U.S. curriculum. So as far as like learning the imperial measurements and oh gosh. From the financial aspect, like so they learned some like the Canadian, I mean, we have our Canadian currency exchange. So while they're working out the problems, I have them working with the Canadian money, but they're also working with American money on the questions because they have half dollars and this sort of thing. And we don't have that kind of stuff. So it also appeals to me that this is Canadian content, and especially with the geography and the history and that sort of thing too. Yeah. I like that as well. Is there, so I was reading through when I was looking through online, and it mentioned something about live classes. So is that like a group of kids that would be on like a Zoom, or what is that?
We have sort of experimented with live classes to see what parents were interested in, and we're hoping to bring them back in the fall. Okay. But as of right now, we don't have any live classes running for the summer. So with your digital subscription, it's all the self-paced pre-recorded lessons, and then and the whole library. So the other nice thing that you guys would probably really benefit from is the social emotional learning. So specifically, I'm pretty sure it's 3rd grade actually that they do growth mindset. So that's that, mistakes help me grow rather than mistakes being the end of the world. Help us frustration tolerance and just like naming emotions and the unhelpful thoughts. All of those things are very helpful. Like the earlier you start and practice, the better.
Yeah. Is that a course on its own? Like that's a unit on its own that they would work through?
Yeah. Each course is compartmentalized. That's what gives us the ability to sort of mix and match grade levels and mix and match based on interest. So with my kids, I always just gave them like the library for science and social studies. And I was like, pick 5 sciences you want to do this year. And they would pick, or more, 5 was like the minimum that I wanted them to do. But, and then same with social studies, like pick 3 or 4 social studies that you want to do this year, or like mom's going to pick 1 and then you can pick 2 and or something like that. Right. So that's where you can like pull in their interests, especially like autism and ADHD both tend to have those like really passionate special interests that they're super into. So anytime you can like pull that into their learning, that's so helpful, because then they're actually like interested in doing the content.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And so on average then, like, do we then set the time for how long they'll be doing their school? Or like if I wanted them to do their language arts and their math and hit on, a social studies or a science for the day, I guess for me, where I struggle most is like actually scheduling it, because I feel like by the time we are done language arts, they're tapped out. They don't have the ability to then go on and do, a math lesson after that, or vice versa. If we've done math and they're like, nope. So we usually I try to start between 8:30 and 9. And I always say that we'll be done by lunchtime, depending on how long it takes them, how silly they need to be, or whatever the case may be. So on average, what would be the time commitment, or is that just really based on how we...
It really varies on the kids and how long it takes them to do that like follow-up piece of work. Like I said, the lesson itself is very short.
Right.
So the follow-up work is like kids, especially who are neurotypical, don't like pointless redundancy. So all of the activities are made to be like very to the point. Like, let's check if you understood. And if they didn't, then they can rewatch the video. They can do an alternative activity to check again. But if they got it, then like, let's just check that they got it and move on. They don't have to do 100 questions on this topic if they understood it, right? So, so all of that work is purposely tried to be condensed as well. And especially when you're homeschooling, because you're so one-on-one, you can see if they didn't understand something versus a teacher in a classroom who maybe
Right.
needs them to do like 20 math questions just in case, because she can't check on every single kid, right?
Right. That makes sense.
So usually it's like 20 minutes for them to do like a science or social studies. I would say like 20 to 30 minutes
Okay.
for your little lesson, and then your follow-up work, depending on what it is. You know, sometimes it's like an experiment or a cutting and pasting sort of activity, and all those things take a little bit longer.
Right. Okay.
But then also, like, you can sort of, when you're structuring your day, you can talk to the kids about that too, and how they handle their work. So I have two kids, they're both neurodiverse, but they were very different with their work. So I have one kid who had to be number of questions based. So because he would do one question and then stare out the window at the birds for 8 minutes, and then do half of a question, and then go to the bathroom. And so for him, I had to say, like, okay, bud, you got to do these 6 questions. And when you're done, you're done. But then my daughter was completely different, where she would work really hard, but because she is also dyslexic, it was hard work for her. So for her, I could say, I'm going to set the timer for 10 minutes and you get as many done as you can. And when the timer goes, you'll stop, because I can see that she's working really hard, and in 10 minutes, she's going to be tired. Even if she only got 2 or 3 questions done, she's going to be mentally fatigued. Where if I put a 10-minute timer on for my son, he would just whittle the time away and he would have nothing done, right? So it's really like that ability in homeschooling to customize to each kid. And it can also be hard when it's like you have 2 kids working side by side who need different things.
Yeah, definitely.
But what I would do with them is actually not have them do the same subject at the same time. So I would be like, you're going to watch your math video and then do your math work. If you need help, let me know. But I'm going to be over here doing language arts with your sister. And we would be doing like her AAR lesson or whatever. And then he's right there. If he's stuck, I can be like, okay, 1 sec. And I go help him. But then they were doing different subjects at different times, which kind of, for me, split the different needs a little bit.
Yeah. We have not done that. That might actually be a good idea, especially if they're able to do something, especially if it's online and they're I will definitely take that. I like that.
And then the online platform has both the option of like the digital online quiz that follows up the lesson. So that'll be like multiple choice, true or false, click, click, click. Or you can print a PDF if you want to do like a pen to paper worksheet at the same time.
Oh, yeah. I like that, because then they're watching the video and then having to, I think for my son especially, to be able to not just hear what he's saying, but actually put it to pen and paper to make sure that he's actually comprehended what is being taught. I like that. That really appeals to me. For the language arts how you guys use the University of Florida? Is it the University of Florida? Oh gosh, what is it called? Something to do with the University of Florida, as far as like language arts for reading and spelling. How my concern, I guess, would be from switching from AAR and AAS to Schoolio, and them, because we have a pretty good rhythm, they know what to expect. Is it similar?
So the one thing we don't have is learn to read instruction. So we do like all your phonics, blends, and digraphs in the kindergarten program.
Okay.
And then for most kids who are developing normally practice reading, once you know all the blends and the digraphs and all of those, practice is enough. So once you're in grade 1, we have reading literature. So that's where they do like studies of different genres and comparing authors and stuff like that. That's the like reading literature side of it. And then continue with spelling practice, which is very like, we use the Dolce words, which is based on frequency of use. So you're learning the most commonly used words first.
Okay.
And then we have grammar and their writing, which is a bunch. They've learned 10 different writing styles
in a school year. So fiction, nonfiction, writing a letter, stuff like that.
Right. And we haven't even, well, not, at least not with level 2. I mean, we're starting to kind of recognize, who the characters are, the main characters, and we've only just touched on what a noun is and that sort of thing. So they're not, we haven't done a lot of that. Okay. So would you then still recommend that I keep still going through with the All About Reading
if you like AAR and AAS and it's going well, you can keep it. I mean, it is an expensive program if they're reading and you just have them keep reading every day. I don't know, we stopped AAR at level 3 because it was like, she can read books now. I'm going to tell her to read for 45 minutes a day. And she just improved on her own. She didn't really need that specific instruction anymore. But that's totally your call based on.
So maybe one more year with those. I mean, their reading is good, but when they read the readers fine, right? They can apply what has been learned in the lesson to the readers. And then I always have them practice rereading the stories that they've learned for that lesson. And then we've got, they're allowed to pick a book. She enjoys Dragon Girls and he likes Zach Power books. So reading, which has a whole bunch of different novels or words that we haven't been taught yet. So where they get stuck, my husband and I will help them to sound out some of those words. And obviously some of the lessons we haven't gone through yet with them for being able to decode some of the larger words and how that breaks down for them. But I would say for the most part, they are doing well. They read the Dogman books, but I know that those are just, kind of fluffy books. And for them, they're like, we don't want you to help us. So I say, okay, that's fine. But then they have to read the other books with me because I know that they're putting in words or pronouncing words that they see that they're not sure what they are. And I was like, I just don't want you to train your brain to think that that's what's actually what you're actually reading, but it's not in fact what is actually being said in the book. So I'm trying to give them the space to just do that, which is great because they've taken that initiative on their own, but then to also make sure that they're actually properly reading the words. Okay, so I will consider doing those for the fall in conjunction with, and I can maybe just switch up the days.
But yeah, the I forget what it's called, the Have It All combo, I think, or something like that, the books and digital. So that gives you, if you have a digital subscription, you can print any of the PDFs you want. They're attached to each lesson. So you would have to print them one at a time. And some people do that because it's cheaper. Other people want the books, like the whole book. So that's where you can get the whole book set printed and your digital subscription as well. So it's really personal preference, what you want to use there.
Right. I love the idea of just having it done for me. But I can also, because it comes in color and all that sort of stuff, right? Our printer,
it's spiral bound.
Yeah, our printer is just black and white. And I know that for them, when I'm doing the AAR and I'm having to make copies, they're always, can I have the color copy this time? Can I have the color copy? So I think having the color part. Okay. So sign up today is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay. So
show you around the platform a little bit.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. Let me figure out how to share my screen here. See if this works. There we go. All right, so this is in my parent dashboard.
Okay.
So my kids are down the side here. So there's 2 different modes you can have. You can have scheduling, which is this, where you get a timetable and you can schedule all your lessons into it. The other one is open exploration. So my daughter likes open. With the open exploration, you pick the courses that are open to them, but there's no schedule. So they can learn what lessons they want when they want. So that's nice if your kid has like a hyperfixation on something and you want to just give them the whole unit and they're going to crush it, like all 10 lessons in 2 days or something like that.
Right.
Or if your child needs more structure, I just have 2 different kids who work differently. Then the schedule is nice. Our schedule looks sad right now because it's summer. But there you go. There's last month.
Okay.
So, so this is like very scheduled.
Right.
All the courses are color coded. And then, so he doesn't see this because this would just like make an ADHD brain probably bug out. But, so when they log into their portal, all he sees is the lesson that's up next.
Okay.
Here, I'll just log in as him and show you. Where's Gavin? This is our vibe check. So every day we ask them how they're feeling, and then you get that in your back, in your dashboard. You get to see how they're feeling the majority of the time. Okay. So when he logs in, this is what he sees. This lesson is up next. And it's only there if it's occurred in the timetable. So if I set it for Monday at 9 a.m. at 8:59, he can't see this. But at 9 a.m. it unlocks and he can use it. And then if it's 9:30 and the next one unlocks, then they're both here and he can scroll through.
I see. And then obviously so I was just, before you had brought this up, I was seeing too on your daughter's there where it looked like she could have the open and just go and pick and choose what she likes, but she can start one and then come back to it another time. Because I think I was looking at the bars where it's like, a certain percentage was completed.
Yeah, so this is hers where all of these courses I've opened for her.
Okay.
And then she can just pick and choose. That one's finished. She can pick and choose whatever she wants, and it just opens automatically to whatever lesson she left off at.
Okay.
And then after this one's done, it'll go to the next, and whenever she wants, she can be done and go back.
Okay.
They'll have like say math, and they'll say to their kids, like, you need to do 45 minutes of math.
Okay.
And so it's like maybe one day that's 2 lessons and maybe one day that's 5 lessons.
Right.
But that's so they can use that open exploration for that.
Okay.
There we go.
Right. I like that. That looks
So
that looks fantastic. Okay. So with this family membership, if I signed up today for the family membership, that would include both of the kids for the next year, like until this time next year.
Yep.
And then that would give them, so all of the lessons would all be digital. And then I still have the option to print off all the PDFs for pen paper work.
Yeah, like if you want to print it, let me go back to a lesson and I'll show you. Oh, that's the dashboard. Wrong spot. So if I open his lessons, I can watch the lesson if I want, as a parent, if I want to know what they're learning. There's the little quiz after it. Okay. And then you can also go and download each.
And I can print it off myself. Okay.
Yeah, so you can download and print the worksheets if you want. That's sort of the one at a time method.
Right.
Or if you want the books, like the language arts you would get the whole book.
Right.
A lot of the language arts, they'll have a lesson, but there might not be a practice quiz because just because it's like a writing based activity.
I see.
So there's the lesson, there's the worksheet.
Oh, okay. So then they have to read the instructions and then follow.
Yeah, if you want the printed one. But then the lesson here would just read the instructions to them aloud.
Hello, Explorer.
Oh, so they could I could have the printed off form. They could watch the lesson and follow along with paper.
Yeah, they can watch the lesson and it'll tell them like, this is what we're learning today. This is what it is. This is what you need to do. Maybe it's like you're going to work in your graphic organizer to organize your thoughts. And then you can print the graphic organizer, or if you bought the book, it'll just be in there. And they can work right on that after they watch the lesson.
Do I have the option of purchasing the books later?
Yeah, if you don't buy the bundle and you just get your digital subscriptions, you can buy books anytime from the bookstore.
So does the $4.99, would that cover, is that per kid or for both kids?
That's per kid because that's basically it's your full grade bundle price.
Okay.
You can also, like, if you're the full grade bundles are, because they're pre-made, we just bundled 4 sciences and 2 social studies together that align. Like if you pick the Ontario one, it'll align with Ontario, what they're learning in school. But if you'd rather mix and match and like pick topics that interest them instead, then it would be better to buy the books one at a time because you might be getting different things.
Right. Okay. Well, I think I've convinced myself that this is probably the best way to go for September. So I will chat with my husband, although he's probably just going to say, do whatever you feel is right, because he's not really super involved in the homeschool part of things. So, okay.
We also do student success plans. If you have a digital membership, you can, in your first email, it will ask you if you want a student success plan. And it's like a little survey. You answer some questions about your kids, like what are they into, strengths, weaknesses, that sort of thing. And then one of our teachers takes that information and designs you a full year schedule that's like tailored to your kid. So if you say like, she loves animals, then we load you up with animal-based sciences. Or, you know, whatever they're into, we try to like customize it to your kid.
Okay.
And that gives you like a week by week, like you're doing this unit for these weeks, and then you can follow it or not. I mean, that's totally up to you.
Oh, no, that's what I need. Like for that, yes. And that's with the digital subscription?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
that's
I need.
a free service. You just fill out the survey and it automatically comes to one of our teachers and she makes it up.
Amazing. I like that. I like that very much. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I think this is fantastic. I'm going to tell all my friends about it.
Please.
I have because I know there's a few of us who are in the same boat this year, and we've all been like, oh my goodness. So I think this will be good for them, and I think it'll be good for us as a family all together, because I definitely cannot do another year like we had this year for sure. So
they're just at that age where they're like testing the boundaries, you know, and like how much can I push this and get away with? And one thing that worked really well for us, not everybody like believes in this sort of thing, but what's the positive reinforcement? So I would have like Chip-Its or Skittles or something like that. And then just like
marshmallows, we do that.
Yeah, like something really small. And then it's just catching them in those good moments. So it's like, okay, kids, it's time for school. And they come, it's like, I really liked the way you came the first time I asked you, Skittle. And and like, you know, I really liked the way you stayed calm when you couldn't figure out that math question, Skittle. And it just like builds that like habit.
Right.
And then they're trying to earn a reward, and that's okay. Like they're not intrinsically motivated at the moment. They're externally motivated, but it becomes a habit.
Right.
And then you can start like at the beginning, you're rewarding for every little thing. And then you start rewarding for only like bigger demonstrations, like coming to the table on time every time. They always do. So I don't need to reward that anymore. And you sort of back off of it a little bit, but that worked really well for us.
I think that will be something I implement when we sit down to start our year next year. Because I'd be like, okay, you know, you get a marshmallow for every word you get, you know, we spell correctly or whatever the case may be, you know, finish this. Yeah. So I have touched with that, but I like the way, even coming to the table and just doing that automatically. I do like that. So I will put
My
that.
daughter hated AAR so much. Like it was working, but she hated doing it.
Yeah.
So at one point it was like, I got to chip it on every word just to read. I'm like, you chip it, you read the word.
Yeah, totally. You get it.
You do what you got to do.
Okay. This is great. Where are you guys based out of? Are you in Ontario? Or are you?
Yeah. Our company home base is in Toronto. I'm in Kingston, or just outside of Kingston.
Okay. So we're up in Muskoka. So that's, fun. Okay. Okay. Very good. Well, I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much. You will probably see me register at some point later this evening. I am just going to figure out what I want to do as far as the books and the print. And then we'll go from there. So that's wonderful. I appreciate your time again. Thank you.
It was great to meet you.
Yeah, you as well. Okay. Take care. Okay. Bye-bye.